One day a family was eating dinner and a boy says, "Dad, is it good to eat bugs?" And his dad, wanting to teach his son proper manners at the table, said, "Hey son, that's a conversation for later. We don't talk about that now." His son said, "Oh, okay, Dad, fine." So after the dinner was over, the dad went up to him and said, "Now son, what were you asking me about with the bugs?" He said, "Oh, it's okay, Dad, never mind. I was going to ask you if it was okay to eat bugs, but it's gone now. It was in your soup." And thank you. Yeah, the groan, that's about all that deserves. Sometimes we can learn by watching others' example what we shouldn't do as much as what we should do, right? I want you to think about something for just a minute. Can you think of a time, and I'm sure you can't, but can you think of a time when someone did something wrong to you, either said something or did something, and you got mad and you wanted to kind of retaliate maybe, say something negative back to them, maybe seek a little revenge, maybe be passive aggressive, they wouldn't even find out you did it? Now I know you guys don't do that, but you've seen other people do that before, right? Yeah. Maybe it was an older brother or sister that used to annoy you. Maybe it was someone at your job. Maybe it was someone that everyone knew was a bully, and now all of a sudden they have their sights on you, and you decide you're not going to put up with that, you're going to retaliate, you're going to get back at them. Now, we all know the golden rule, right? The golden rule, do unto others as you would have them. Yeah, do unto you. We all know that. And the golden rule sounds great, right? Until you've been mistreated, right? Then we'd rather have it say, do unto others as they have done unto you. Because that just makes sense, right? That feels right. If someone insults you, it just makes sense that, well, you're going to insult them back. You're not going to take that. Someone rises up against you, maybe does something physically or something else to you. It just makes sense that we would retaliate, that we would seek revenge. That feels right. It feels natural to us. So, one thing we see a lot of, unfortunately, is that you see this in kids, but you also see this in adults, right? Someone that's been bullied or mistreated by someone else, and they're powerless in that situation to do anything about it. And you would hope that you would think like, okay, you know what, I didn't like that when you did that to me, so I'm not going to treat anybody else that way. That is what would make the most sense. But unfortunately, what we often see is sometimes when someone is bullied or mistreated and they're powerless in that situation, they turn around and treat other people that way. And why do they do that? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. But somehow, that's what happens. And the golden rule becomes, do unto others as someone has done unto you. So, the thought of getting even with someone, right, when they've mistreated us or insulted us or done something, there's a little bit of that in our minds. We know it's not right. We know we shouldn't, right? But there's something in there that feels like, that feels good. I want to do that. But here's my question. Why would you want to get even and make yourself even with someone that you don't like or someone that's got bad character, right? That literally makes you even with them. You don't want to be even with a person like that, right? You want to be the stronger person. You want to show the more character, right? You don't want to even yourself by lowering yourself to where they are. Well, this brings us to where we are at in our story with David today. Let me ask you, how many of you have heard before, either read it or saw the VeggieTale movies? I didn't know they had one, but that's where, yeah. How many of you have heard the story of David and Nabal and Abigail before? Just raise your hand. I want to see who's done it. So, okay, only a couple. Okay, well, all right, very good. So this will be a new story to you. So Saul, we finished off last week, you guys remember. Saul's been chasing David. David and his men, they've been out in the wilderness, and David has been kind of slowly accumulating people like here and there. And he's got about 600 men, and then some of them have families that are following him now. So he's got about 600 guys. And they're out in the desert. It's the dry places is what they're called, of Judah. And they're kind of down around the Philistines. They are, I'll have a map for you guys soon. The Philistines kind of had the nice property along the sea, and the All right, I'm already fumbling this up. We'll have to redo this. Anyways, here's my point. David, he's out in the wilderness in the dry areas. Saul had been chasing him down, and there's seen last week where Saul and his many, about 3,000 men, and they come to this spot where they hear David is, and Saul goes into this cave to relieve himself. And David and some of his men are hiding back in this cave, right? And David comes out and he cuts off a little bit of Saul's robe, and when Saul goes out, David kind of confronts him respectfully. It says, hey, Saul, I could have killed you. I could have done this. Look, I cut off a piece of your robe instead of taking my knife and killing you with it. And Saul has this moment, right? Saul, who is not very good at this point in his life at emotional regulation, right? He gets angry very easy. He has these little fits of rage that come over him. Throws a spear a couple times at David. Throws a spear at his own son, Jonathan. Now he's out there, right? So that's where we're at. Saul has this moment where he's kind of humbled by David. He realizes David could have killed him. And here's 3,000 of his warriors that he's brought up against David. David confronts him and says, hey, I could have killed you, but I didn't do it. And Saul realizes that David is more righteous than him. And so he says, hey, go in peace. I'm going home. You go in peace. And David's smarter than that. David knows, okay, this is peace for now. Maybe Saul will leave me alone. Maybe not. Let's find out. Let's just see. Let's let some time go by and see what happens. So that's where we're at in the story. Saul has gone back. At least for now, he's not chasing David. He will again. But for now, he's not chasing David. David and his men, they're out in this area. And as we read just a minute ago, there was a certain man in Maon who had property there, and he was very wealthy. He had 1,000 goats and 3,000 sheep, and he was having his sheep sheared at Carmel. And so David hears like, oh, this guy's there, he's shearing his sheep. And so he sends 10 young men from his group to go up, and he says, go to Nabal in Carmel and greet him in my name. Say to him, long life to you, good health to you and your household, and good health to all that is yours. Now, that's what we read. That's what we read just a minute ago. But that's not all David asked his men to say. He says to his men, say, now, I hear that it is sheep shearing time. When your shepherds were with us, we did not mistreat them. And the whole time they were at Carmel, nothing of theirs was missing. Ask your own servants and they will tell you. Therefore, would you be favorable to my men, since we come at a festive time? Please give your servants and your son David whatever you can find for them. In other words, when we were out there, I got 600 of my guys. When your guys were out there, your shepherds, we didn't steal from them. We didn't go and take some sheep. We didn't bother them. And not only that, we kept other people from bothering them. We're going to get to that in a minute. We protected them from others because they're not the only ones wandering around out in the desert. There's other people coming and going. And so David's saying, since I was good to you, would you be good to me? Since we were good to you, would you be good to us? Now, there's kind of a weird irony here in this request. Actually, before I get to that, David really humbling himself. He says, please give your servants. I mean, they're not really his servants, but it's a way of speaking. It's kind of, what's the word? Obsequious? It's kind of humble, just like, saying like, hey, we're your servants. Would you give us something? Is there anything you can spare for us? So David's men arrived and they gave Nabal this message in David's name. And then they waited. Now, there's kind of a weird irony here. I was trying to think like, what's a current modern day example of this? And this isn't exactly the same, but what if you left your garage door open? Right? You got all your tools in there and you got all your stuff in there and your garage door was open and later that day a neighbor knocks on your door. He says, hey, I noticed you had your garage door open earlier. I saw your tools in there, your lawnmower, your leaf blower. I saw all this stuff and I didn't steal anything from you, but I would like a leaf blower. Would you be willing to give me your leaf blower because I didn't steal it? Now, you'd probably say the same thing I would say if they did that. You might say the same thing Nabal said. I'd be like, thank you for doing the right thing. Thank you for not stealing from me. No, I'm not just going to give you my stuff. You might give a little reward if it was a kid. I don't know. Right? It's kind of a weird little thing. So Nabal answers the way we might have depending on our mood at the time. He says, who is this David? Who is this son of Jesse? Many servants are breaking away from their masters these days. Nabal knew exactly who David was. He knew his father's name. He knew he was the son of Jesse. And more important than that, he knew that Saul was looking for him. We're going to see in a few more minutes in this story, everybody knew that Saul was hunting for David. Everybody knew that Saul was looking for him and that David and his men were on the run. And he knew that David was Saul's son-in-law, and at one time the captain of his bodyguard, highly esteemed, and now he's broken away from his master, and his master Saul is chasing after him. He knew exactly what was going on. So he says, why should I take my bread and water and the meat I've slaughtered for my shearers and give it to men coming from whom knows where? In other words, he's basically telling David off. He's like, who are you? Get away from me. I'm not doing anything for you. Now, David's men turned around and went back, and when they arrived, they reported every word every word Nabal said to David. And David said to his men, each of you strap on your sword. And they did. And David strapped on his sword as well. And we're told that about 400 men went up with David, while 200 stayed with the supplies. Now, if this was a movie, and I like to think of David's life as a movie, but if this was a movie, there would be dramatic music starting to play, right? And you can see the camera panning in on David's face as he says, strap on your swords. So how many of you guys saw the movie Jumanji 2? Part 2. It came out a few years ago with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. A couple of you guys. So I don't play video games, modern day video games, but a lot of the computer and the modern day video games, like people have different characteristics and different strengths and superpowers, right? You get this different one. Well, in that movie, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, one of his strengths was smoldering intensity. And it's very humorous. And so there's different spots in the movie, and they pan in on his face, and he's got the smoldering intensity look, right? It's humorous. It's funny. But I picture that for David right now. The camera pans in. David's got the smoldering intensity. Strap on your sword. The men, they're getting ready. Now, something else, though, is happening at the same time that David doesn't know about. There's a twist in the plot. One of the servants that had been there and overheard David's men asking Nabal, hey, would you give us something? And when they heard Nabal's reply and they left, one of those servants went and told Abigail. Abigail, of course, is Nabal's wife. They said, David sent messengers from the wilderness to give our master his greetings, but he hurled insults at him. Yet these men were very good to us. They did not mistreat us, and the whole time we were out in the fields near them, nothing was missing. It was like a surprise, because when you have lots of people, people are people. Even good people make poor choices. When you have kind of a small army of people, not everyone's got the same good character, and there's other people roaming around. I told you about that. So he says, night and day, they were a wall around us the whole times we were herding our sheep near them. In other words, these guys were good to us. And we would have expected at least, a sheep here and there to be missing. I'm sure these guys are hungry. They never came and tried to rob us. And these other people that were wandering around, they were like a wall. They protected us. Now think it over and see what you can do, because disaster is hanging over our master and his whole household. He is such a wicked man that no one can talk to him. So we're told that Abigail acted quickly. She took 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 dressed up sheep, 5 seahs of roasted grain, 100 cakes of raisin, and 200 cakes of processed figs, and loaded them on donkeys. Then she told her servants, go ahead and I'll follow you. But she did not tell her husband, Nabal, what was happening and what she was going to do. So this is, once again, here's this movie scene. As David and his 400 men are coming down the side of this mountain, here is Abigail on a donkey. She turns this corner in this ravine, and here's David's men. She literally rounds the corner, and here they are coming down the mountain in this ravine, and they come face to face. And we're told that we're told that as David and his men are riding, and as she's kind of rounding this corner, here's David. He's kind of muttering to himself and talking to whoever's riding next to him. And he says, "It's been useless, all my watching over this fellow's property in the wilderness, so that nothing of his was missing. He has paid me back evil for good." Yeah, he has paid me back evil for good, as in the good I did to him. In other words, in David's mind, he felt like this was a justified request. I was good to him. Our guys did protect him and his stuff. And David was a righteous man. There's also maybe a little self-interest in there. David and his men, they don't want word spreading around that his people are stealing from other Israelites, right? They don't want word spreading around that, oh yeah, look out for David and his men. They're going to come and steal your stuff. They're going to mistreat your people. They're going to rob you. They don't want that. So there's a little self-interest. But I think too, and we'll see this next week or 2 weeks from now, that he's actually protecting the other Israelites in that area as well. So David doesn't want to steal from his own people. So David makes this oath. He says, "May God deal with David, be it ever so severely, if by morning I leave one male alive from Nabal's household." In other words, I'm not going down there just to insult him back as he insulted me. I'm going down there, and not just to kill him. I can't withstand that insult. I'm going to duel him for that. He's going to kill every male in his household. His male children, his male servants, even kids. This is David. He is mad. Now you picture the smoldering intensity, right? He and his men, they're riding down to kill them. And we can picture him talking to his men as they're going, it's been useless. We can kind of picture that in his mind. But why does he refer to himself in the third person? May God deal with David ever so severe. Why he's talking about himself? I don't know why he does that. Anyways, in David's mind, he had been doing a good thing by keeping his men in check. And we get the sense here that not only did David and his men keep his men from stealing, but others from stealing too. All right, I've already said that. So, anyways, when Abigail saw David, she quickly got off her donkey and bowed down before David with her face to the ground. Now, this is kind of a strange scene, and this might have seemed strange to David. Abigail is the wife of a wealthy man. She shouldn't be bowing down to him and talking to him, but she does. Once again, she shows humility. She heard the humility that David had showed in reaching out to her husband, and so she reacts in kind. She, in humility, says to him, and this is the point of my sermon. This is my main takeaway I want you to hear. She begins to treat David as if he is the man she hopes that he is. And she speaks into the potential of his future if he will be the man that he should be instead of the one that she sees coming. Right? She fell at his feet and said, "Pardon your servant, my lord, and let me speak to you. Hear what your servant has to say. Please pay no attention to that wicked man Nabal. He is just like his name, and his name means fool, and folly goes with him. And as for me, your servant, I did not see the men my lord sent." She's really laying it on thick. She's saying, hey, if I was there, my lord, it's respect, right? If I was there, I would have given your men all kinds of stuff. In fact, look right over there. There they are. Here come some other donkeys. And look I've got some meat for you, and I've got some cakes for you and grains. I have everything you've requested because it was a good request. And we want to be good neighbors. Pay no attention to my husband, the fool. And now, my lord, as surely as the Lord your God lives and as you live, since the Lord has kept you from bloodshed and from avenging yourself with your own hands, may your enemies and all who are intent on harming you, my Lord, be like Nabal. Now, this is like a Jedi mind trick. David's on his way for death and destruction. He hasn't turned back yet. He hasn't made his mind up yet that he's not going to do that. But she speaks potential into him. It's like, you are not going to cause bloodshed. You are not going to kill my foolish husband, right? It's almost like a Jedi mind trick, right? But She says this, since the Lord has kept you from bloodshed, she's speaking into what she hopes is going to happen, and from avenging yourself with your own hand, may your enemies and all who are intent on harming you, my Lord, be like Nabal. And let this gift, which your servant has brought to my Lord, be given to the men who follow you. And in other words, not only do I have stuff for you, David, I have stuff for all your men. They treated us well, and now we're going to treat them well. And now, men, but really women too, there's a lesson here for all of us from Abigail. Abigail begins to treat David as if he is the person she hopes he is and wants him to be. There's nothing in his current demeanor that says this is the man that he's going to be. But she begins to speak to David's potential and his future if only he will act rightly and justly. Parents, grandparents, we can shape our children from very early ages by speaking potential and encouragement to them. We can talk to them as if they are already the children we want them to be. And we can speak that potential into their life. And then it'll be up to them to choose whether they want to do it or not. But there's a lot of power there. It worked with David. You'll see that in just a minute. And I saw this work in my own family a couple of years ago. Tiffany's cousin, her name is Kendra, her daughter, I think she was about 5 or 6 at the time, she didn't get something she wanted. And she was very frustrated. And you could see the look in her face. She wanted to scream and cry. You could see a little tear coming down, and you could see like her face trying to work all of this out. And her mom, she just said, "Oh, I'm so proud of you, honey. Look at how you're able to control yourself. Look at you. You're acting so good. I'm so proud of you." And I could see the daughter processing her mom's words. She wanted to cry and yell, but she also wanted to live into that potential and please her mom. And to her credit, she did. She worked through it, and she worked through it, and after a few minutes, she was able to calm down. Right? Most of us may have seen that in our kids before. But we can hear this in Abigail's words to David. Please forgive your servant's presumption. The Lord your God will certainly make a lasting dynasty for my Lord, because you fight the Lord's battles, and no wrongdoing will be found in you as long as you live. She's speaking potential into him. David, you are a good man. You is kind. You is smart. You is important. Some of you get that reference. Thank you. Yeah. Some of you don't. That's okay. Ask your wives later. They'll tell you. She's saying, David, you are a good man. Right? Yeah. It's from The Help. It's from the movie The Help. So Abigail continues, even though someone is pursuing you to take your life, the life of my Lord will be bound securely in the bundle of the living by the Lord your God. But the lives of your enemies he will hurl away as from the pocket of a sling. She knows exactly who David is. She knows that Saul is pursuing him, and she lets him know that she knows. And in those few words, she takes David back to the time a few years ago when he was a teenager and completely dependent on the Lord. She references the slingshot and how David was dependent on God to fight his battles for him instead of trying to take matters into his own hands, about how David trusted the Lord. It's brilliant. And then she asks the question that's so relevant for us today. Her next leading question is the same question we need to ask ourselves today when we face a difficult decision, a tough decision about whether we are going to act with integrity, act with Christian character, or whether we're going to maybe lower ourselves to be even with people around us. Abigail says, when the Lord has fulfilled for my Lord everything good he promised concerning him, and has appointed him ruler over Israel. The people knew. The people knew by this time why Saul was pursuing David. They didn't think it was just a family tiff or spat. They knew that God's hand of blessing was on David. and that he would someday be king. They knew it, and she lets him know that she knew it. She says, when God has appointed you over Israel, my Lord will not have to look on his conscience the staggering burden of needless bloodshed or of having avenged himself. And when the Lord your God has brought you success, remember your servant. In other words, years from now, when God has fulfilled his promises to you, and this is just a forgotten memory, what is the story you want to tell your children and your grandchildren? Do you want to tell your children and your grandchildren that you killed your enemies and that you spilled blood needlessly just because you were angry? Because you couldn't self-regulate in that moment? Is that the story you want to tell? Or do you want to tell them that you were able to work through that and you forgave them and you hope that they can work through their own difficulties as well? David falls for it, hook, line, and sinker. David comes to his senses because he's had a moment to breathe and kind of calm down, to listen to a voice of reason. Right? And he says this. David said to Abigail, praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, who has sent you to meet me. May you be blessed for your good judgment and for keeping me from bloodshed on this day and from avenging myself with my own hands. Otherwise, as surely as the Lord, the God of Israel lives, who has kept me from harming you, if you had not quickly come to meet me, not one male belonging to the house of Nabal would have been left alive by daybreak. Then David accepted from her hand what she had brought him and said, go home in peace. I have heard your words and have granted your request. Now, it's an interesting story, but the story isn't over. There's actually 8 more verses left in this chapter, in this story. This is 1 Samuel chapter 25. Raise your hand if you know how this story ends. Okay, only a couple of you. Well, keeping on with my movie theme, I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger. You are going to have to go yourself and read 1 Samuel chapter 25, the last 8 verses, to know the rest of the story. But here's our takeaway from today, and here's your homework for this week. Not just your homework for this week, but as you go throughout your life. 2 things. The first is to speak positive things into the lives of those around you, to those you interact with your own family, children if you have them, grandchildren, but co-workers at work, friends that you meet along the way. Speak positive, encouraging things into their lives and encourage them to make good choices. At the very least, tell them that you know that they are someone who is kind, someone who is smart, someone who is important. Speak to them as if they are already the person you want them to be and that God wants them to be. And then treat them that way. And then watch God work in their lives. It'll be up to them what decision they make. But you can be an encouragement. You can be a positive encourager in their life. Second part of your homework is to ask your own self when you find yourself facing a difficult decision, especially one that may be out of Christian character for you or cause you to lower yourself to someone else's level. What is the story that you want to be able to tell when you get home from work later to your spouse? What is the story that you want to be able to tell a few years from now to your children or grandchildren? Maybe more important for some of you is what is the story that you want told about you by others who know you and who know and will know the decision that you make. Did you put it in God's hands and act with integrity as a Christian, or did you seek revenge or your own sinful desires? Please pray with me. Father, this is an amazing story, and what an example Abigail sets. But we have another example as well, and that's that of your son. He lived among us for 3 years, and not only taught us with his words, but also showed us by example how we should live. God, would you help us, even during the very difficult times, to look to his example, to model his behavior, and to obey his teachings. Give us the strength through your Holy Spirit. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.